Spanish Stonehenge. It is something like 5,000 to 7,000 years old.
Explore the hidden wonders of the deep underwater, where countless artifacts and entire submerged cities lie concealed from our view. Join me on this fascinating journey as we uncover the most astonishing finds. In 2022, a 78-year-old resident of Bohol Island in the Philippines went for a walk in the forest. When he didn't return home by evening, his family raised the alarm and contacted the police. The search for the missing man began the next day. On the first day, the searchers found a steamed bun. Relatives of the elderly man reported that he had taken a few of those buns with him on his walk. On the second day, they discovered a place where someone had cooked rice nearby, along with half of that very bun. On the third day, one of the volunteers was checking a section of the forest near a river when he heard the clicking sound of crab pincers. He hypothesized that the starving missing man might have gone to the river to catch crabs. Exiting the forest, he realized his guess was accurate. The elderly man was indeed sitting on the rocks by the river. The grandfather was healthy and unharmed. The searchers brought him home, where his loved ones had been anxiously waiting. Watching this clip, you might think that the river's water is colored red through video editing software, but in reality, it's a genuine river. About 100 kilometers from the Peruvian city of Cusco flows the Palcoyo River. Its water is colored in a vibrant raspberry red hue. This uniqueness attracts many tourists and is a distinctive natural attraction of Peru. The Palcoyo River takes on this unusual color only during the rainy season. At other times, its water is quite muddy and has a brownish color. With the onset of rains, the river not only changes its shade but also becomes wider, deeper, and cleaner. So why does such an unusual phenomenon occur in the Palcoyo River? The fact is that the river originates in the area of the Rainbow Mountains in the Andes. These terrains, by the way, also look simply fantastic. Their colorful layers formed millions of years ago from red sandstone, which under many factors took on various colors. A significant amount of iron oxide from the Rainbow Mountains enters the Palcoyo River, giving the river its red color. A stone river, or kurum, is an unusual natural phenomenon where many stones accumulate in a long, winding line, resembling a river when viewed from above. The world's largest stone river is located in Russia, in the South Ural National Park Tagan. The stone river here lies between two mountain ranges, Big and Middle Tagan. Its length is 6 kilometers, and its maximum width can reach up to 700 meters. Tagan, like other kurums, consists of massive stone boulders, with the weight of one such stone reaching up to 10 tons. Tourists walking along the stone river can clearly hear the sounds of gurgling water, and if you look closely in some areas under the boulders, you can indeed see small streams. Scientists still cannot fully unravel the nature of such a fascinating and unusual phenomenon. They only assume that stone rivers are traces of once massive landslides. However, the national park's website mentions that Taganay originated after boulders broke off from the mountains due to a sudden cooling and slid down. In 1950, Pete Cutters discovered a mummy in the Belkodal bog in Denmark that was so well preserved it could be mistaken for a sleeping man. Upon seeing it, the workers believed the body belonged to a recently killed individual. The mummy was found in the bog at a depth of about 2.12 meters. The deceased was lying with bent knees in a fetal position, with a sheepskin cap on his head held in place by a strap and a leather belt around his waist. His neck was tightly bound with a plaited leather cord, while the rest of his clothing had rotted away. Research indicated that the man died about 2,000 years ago at around the age of 40. Scientists surmised that his death resulted from hanging, after which he was thrown into the bog. He likely became one of the victims whose lives were offered to ancient pagan gods. The mummy was so impeccably preserved that researchers were even able to determine that the man had eaten a meal of flax and barley porridge before his death. Imagine walking through a dense forest at night, and suddenly, before your eyes, a doll appears seated on a swing. Such a scene could be the opening for a horror film, but the residents of the Australian town of Lucinda have had the fortune or misfortune to witness such a sight firsthand. Not far from the town, there's a forest and several swamps, and next to one of them, a doll sits on a swing suspended from a tree. When the wind blows, it sways as if a living child were playing on the swing. It looks quite eerie. Despite the doll's seemingly innocent, childlike face, local residents tend to keep their distance, as townspeople believe that if one approaches the toy, it will guard its territory and cast a curse. From that moment on, the person will be plagued by misfortunes and illnesses. Who brought the doll, and for what purpose, remains a mystery. Perhaps the person who set up this installation did so to attract tourists to the area. The town's mayor is skeptical about people's fear of the doll. However, he, like other locals, hesitates to approach it closely. In 2018, scientists became concerned about an impending drought and began warning people about it. It turns out they weren't the only ones alerting people to the danger. In many drying up water bodies across Europe, so-called hunger stones were revealed. They serve as messages from the past. During severe droughts of past centuries, people left inscriptions on stones that were fully submerged in water under normal air temperatures. These inscriptions warned people that a year of famine was approaching. Modern temporary droughts aren't as problematic as they were less than 100 years ago. In previous centuries, the absence of rain, heat, and drying up of water bodies meant a lack of harvest, and consequently famine. Therefore, people devised a way to leave cautionary messages about hard times for their descendants. Residence, one of the most famous hunger stones, is a stone that appeared above the surface of the Czech River Elbe. Hunger stones are unique messages from the past, showing us how people cared for their descendants. Residents of one of the small Colombian settlements began to notice strange sounds coming from under a bridge. They sounded like the mournful cry of a child, seemingly asking people for help. These sounds frightened the people for a long time, and they were afraid to approach this place during the dark hours. Therefore, a few brave men decided to go to the bridge and wait for the eerie sounds. They stayed near the bridge for a long time, but nothing unusual was noticed. As soon as the men were about to leave, that very strange sound echoed from the river. One of the men decided to look into the water. What he saw left him in shock. Inside the water was something resembling a ghost, the outline of which looked like a young girl. After sharing his experience, the man learned that almost half a century ago, not far from the current bridge, a girl had been murdered, and her body was found in the river. Astonishingly, the local residents believed the man, and now they believe that the strange sounds were made by the ghost of that very murdered girl. In 2022, in the mangrove swamps of the Caribbean islands, scientists made a sensational discovery. They managed to identify a bacterium of incredible size, named Tom Margarita magnifica. Their length can reach nearly a centimeter, which is more than 5,000 times the length of other bacteria. We all know that one can only see a particular microorganism using a microscope. However, the Magnificat is visible even to the naked eye. These bacteria look like thin white threads resembling eyelashes, consisting of microscopic sulfur granules that give them a unique shine. Interestingly, this microorganism was discovered back in 2009 by a French scientist. However, he mistook it for a fungus and did not pursue further study. Now, after a detailed analysis, it's clear that these Caribbean bacteria are prokaryotes, since they lack a membrane-bound nucleus. They derive their energy from the oxidation of reduced sulfur and are truly unique because they not only have gigantic sizes, but also appear as a single cell. During their research in Chongqing, Chinese zoologists heard an unusual sound coming from a swamp. Approaching closer, they inspected the water body and spotted a nondescript frog. After capturing it, they proceeded to analyze its DNA. It turned out that they had discovered a new species of previously unstudied frogs, which they named Nidana chongqinensis. The name refers to the city of Chongqing, near which the specimen was found. The frog is small in size, only about 4 centimeters long. Its back is dark brown with spots, while its belly has a light cream shade. The frog's eye iris is multicolored, with the upper part being bright yellow and the lower part brown-red. The Chongqing frog inhabits mountain swamps and ponds. On land, it hides in dry leaves, camouflaging itself, which is why this species managed to remain undiscovered for a long time. Currently, the behavior of these frogs remains largely unknown, except for the fact that the males emit a screeching sound at night. However, their discovery has allowed scientists to focus on studying them. Back in the 1980s, in the Alps, archaeologists discovered the remains of 4 specimens of phytosaurs of a previously unknown species. Only recently have scientists begun studying these fossils. Looking at these skulls, you might notice a resemblance to crocodiles or gharial. One could assume that phytosaurs were the ancestors of modern reptiles. However, as scientists discovered, there is no direct kinship between them. The external resemblance of phytosaurs to crocodiles demonstrates a clear example of convergent evolution, where external similarities between animals arise due to similarities in their habitats. Phytosaurs were amphibious reptiles living in rivers and lakes. The new species was found in deposits from an ancient oceanic environment. Therefore, scientists believe that some types of phytosaurs were marine. An analysis of the alpine phytosaur remains showed that their body length reached 4 meters. All 4 specimens were in the process of maturing, and according to researchers, they died at the age of 8. This discovery was significant for paleontologists, shedding light on a new species of previously unstudied phytosaurs. In 2016, American archaeologists were stunned by their new discovery. At a depth of 9 meters in an underwater sinkhole, they found stone tools dating back to about 145,000 years ago, as well as bones of mastodons and prehistoric elephants. Previously, scientists believed that the first people settled in America around 13,000 years ago. These people came from Siberia and were called Clovis. Their descendants spread throughout the territory of North America, and many species of ancient animals disappeared as the Clovis actively hunted them. The discovery in 2016 made scientists reconsider the history of the continent's settlement. Thanks to it, it was found out that the first humans came to America at least 1,500 years earlier than previously thought. Moreover, these people were not related to the Clovis people, as indicated by differences in tool-making techniques. Who these ancient people were remains unknown, as archaeologists haven't yet found any human remains from that time. Research is complicated by the fact that the habitats of ancient peoples are now deeply underwater. At the end of 2022, Y. Puit, a resident of the American city of Oxford, while walking along the receded Mississippi River, accidentally noticed something resembling a jaw fragment with a black tooth. He took the find home, and 3 days later brought it to a museum of fossils and artifacts. An expert from the museum speculated that it might be the remains of an ancient animal. After a detailed analysis, it was revealed that the jaw fragment belonged to a Panthera atrox, or American lion. American lions went extinct about 11,000 years ago. They were the largest representatives of their kind, alongside the Mosbach lions. Their body length averaged 2.4 meters, with a height of about 1.2 meters. The weight of these gigantic cats could reach 450 kilograms. In Oregon, archaeologists discovered a priceless artifact, an ancient stone knife estimated to be approximately 15,000 years old. This knife was used as a tip for a hunting tool used in hunting mammoths and mastodons. The ancient tool was found in an area rich in artifacts of the Clovis people, who are considered the first settlers of America. One might assume that the knife belonged to the Clovis people, but scientists think otherwise. In their opinion, the hunting tool was used by some unknown race that came to America almost 2,000 years before the Clovis. This suggestion is based on the tool's similarity to Clovis instruments. The Clovis were distinct in that they didn't invent their tools but always copied the technologies of other races. If these people were the first settlers, then from whom did they copy this knife? To date, scientists are not jumping to conclusions about who the tip really belonged to. They are now focused on thorough excavations, which should help them find an answer to this question. The summer of 2022 brought drought to many corners of our planet, and Spain was no exception. On one hand, the drought caused many serious problems, but on the other, scientists were able to thoroughly study prehistoric stones. The dolmen of Guadalperal is often associated with the English Stonehenge. These two stone clusters indeed resemble each other. The Spanish stones were long hidden in the deep waters of the Valanis Reservoir, but after the waters receded, they became accessible for research. The Spanish Stonehenge consists of 150 granite rocks arranged in a circle, with a diameter of 5 meters. Inside the dolmen, there is a space resembling a kind of corridor, 21 meters long and almost 1.12 meters wide. The ancient stones were discovered in 1926 by archaeologist Hugo Obum, before they were fully submerged in the reservoir's waters. According to scientists, the age of the dolmens is 5,000 years. Pacu fish. In the basins of the Amazon lives a rather unusual fish, the pacu fish. This type of river dweller shares origins with piranhas, as both species have the same number of teeth, but pacus's teeth resemble human ones more. Another difference between pacu and piranhas is their diet. While piranhas are carnivorous, pacus are omnivorous. Pacus also feeds on other fish, but their favorite delicacy is nuts. With their square, flat teeth, they easily crack shells. These fish gained a bad reputation after a few fishermen were injured by them. In all these cases, the fish attacked the men and bit off their testicles. Thus, locals believed that the fish loved to eat male reproductive glands, but more likely they mistook them for nuts, which is why they tried to swallow their favorite tree. Although pacu is considered a South American fish, in recent years this species has been found all over the world. It is believed that pacus are not aggressive fish, so they are often bred in aquariums. However, they aren't the best choice for an aquarium pet, as they can grow up to 100 centimeters in length. At the end of 2022, while draining one of the bogs near the Danish town of Stenos, archaeologists discovered the remains of a mummified person, specifically several fragments of the pelvic bone and the lower jaw. They were carefully extracted from the peat bog and taken to a laboratory for further study. Based on preliminary analysis of the remains, scientists concluded that they are approximately 5,000 years old. Currently, it is unknown who this person was. However, based on other similar findings and the presence of ritual objects near the remains, scientists speculated that he was killed and sacrificed. Such a practice was common in many European countries thousands of years ago. People were killed, and then their bodies were thrown into the bog. Bodies submerged in peat bogs were naturally mummified and were excellently preserved until the present day. For instance, the mummy Tolland man found back in 1950 looks as if the man simply fell asleep. The remains from Stenos still need to be studied in more detail. Bog people's mummies are extremely rare discoveries, so each finding is highly valuable to scientists and historians.